The spoilers for Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 262 are out, and we'll see major domain clash between Sukuna and Yuta. There are many reveals, but we also have some bad news. Let's get started. Now let's get to the bad news. This chapter is only 7 pages long. Typically weekly manga chapters are around 15 to 20 pages, but this one is quite short, and there's another bad news. The manga will go on a 2-week break. It just came back from a break, and now it's going on another one. The reason is that Gege Akutami, the author of Jujutsu Kaisen, is currently unwell. I feel like someone must have put a curse on him based on the unhinged things he is doing lately. Never mind, I just want him to be well and finish the manga. Now, let's get started. The chapter picks up right where chapter 261 left off, with Sukuna and Yuta clashing their domains. Yuta activates his domain, Unlimited Void, but makes its barrier very small, about the size of a basketball. He does this because Gojo realized during his fight with Sukuna that if he made his domain smaller, his Infinite Void could hold up against Sukuna's malevolent shrine for about 3 minutes. This strategy was discussed in earlier chapters about domain creation. Also, shrinking a domain isn't easy and shows how advanced Yuta has become. Reducing the size of the domain barrier helps to ensure that most of the cursed energy attacks hit the opponent, as Yuta had explained in the previous Sukuna versus Gojo fight in chapter 228. The narrator explains that Gojo found that a smaller domain could last 3 minutes against Sukuna's. Even though Sukuna broke Gojo's domain, Gojo did enough damage in those 3 minutes that Sukuna couldn't keep his domain up either. This is why Yuta knows about the 3-minute strategy. Yuta points out that Sukuna is more injured now compared to his fight with Gojo, giving Yuta a better chance to beat him in less than 3 minutes. Sukuna, on the other hand, has also reduced his domain size to counter Yuta's Unlimited Void, just like he did against Gojo. It's also revealed that Yuta trained with Gojo using a soul swapping technique to improve his barrier skills, which is why he can shrink his domain's barrier quickly. This training helped him get ready to fight Sukuna. If anyone is confused about the soul swap, it's a technique performed by Yuta's cousin. The idea is that while breaking Sukuna's domain is hard, doing enough damage within 3 minutes can prevent Sukuna from maintaining it, which is Yuta's goal. During their clash, Yuta tries to use his blue technique, but Sukuna stops him, grabs Yuta's hands, and crushes his attack. Sukuna then beats Yuta, who was trying to use a move similar to Gojo's fighting style. Sukuna even praised Gojo's movements and strength despite being at a disadvantage during their fight. While fighting, Yuta wonders why his Infinite Void isn't affecting Sukuna. Sukuna is using a technique called domain amplification, which he used against Gojo to counter Yuta's domain. This technique allows Sukuna to neutralize any cursed technique within the domain. Sukuna enjoys that Yuta can't tell the other sorcerers what's happening inside the domain. The chapter ends dramatically with Rika, Yuta's manifested spirit, crying over Yuta's lifeless body. This scene is emotional, showing the strong bond between Yuta and Rika, even though this Rika is just a manifestation, not the original. The narrator hints that Rika's full manifestation will only last for 5 minutes, raising the stakes and leaving it uncertain if Yuta will survive inside Gojo's body. In the previous chapter, it was discussed whether Yuta would survive in Gojo's body. It depends on whether the body swapping technique needs to be continuously active. If it does, Yuta only has 5 minutes to live, as Rika's full manifestation lasts that long. But if the technique doesn't need constant activation, Yuta could live indefinitely unless killed. This would also suggest that using multiple techniques at once, like Kenjaku did against Yuki, is possible if Yuta dies within 5 minutes. It will confirm that the body swapping technique must be kept active. Last, Sukuna using Gojo's hand sign to open his domain isn't out of respect for Gojo. It's a strategic move. Normally, cursed techniques are stored in the brain's prefrontal cortex, but Sukuna's was damaged in his fight with Gojo, stopping him from opening his domain. Gojo's hand signs are connected to his eyes in the brain, allowing Sukuna to bypass the damage and activate his domain. Sukuna used the occipital lobe, linked to vision, which is why he used Gojo's hand sign to manifest his domain. This is also why Sukuna's domain looks different from his usual malevolent shrine, with many eyes inside. This shows how smart Sukuna is. Sukuna knows about the 3-minute rule and is confident he can break Yuta's domain within that time and then kill everyone else. He's annoyed and wants to quickly defeat Yuta before moving on to others. That's all for this chapter. The next chapter, 263, will be released on June 27th. In the meantime, I'll keep dropping some peak content for you, so make sure to subscribe. Goodbye.